Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Building Jam. This is episode 25, and today super excited because we have a special guest. Her name is Pauline Narvas, and she is the head of community at Vercel. We get to ask her all our questions about building community platforms, where to do it, and how to engage with developers on the internet. Let's get into it.
So by the way, the premise of this podcast is usually we have these advice conversations and they're off the record. But actually, all of our users are building their startups and companies and teams and products too. And so we're just doing the same advice conversations on the record. So we're going to tell you our biggest problems. And then we're curious, to hear your advice, thoughts, experiences, all of the above. And one of the problems that we have right now in developer community is when we talk to our users, they tell us they're based all over the world. Their friends are not in startups. There's no startup hub. We've been doing these events in San Francisco and New York, but it just feels like we're missing most of the people building software are outside of these cities. Mm-hmm. And we tried to do our first virtual event and we all just left it being that felt like a webinar, that we don't want to repeat that. But you've built these super great online communities. How do you bring the energy and bring the community together when it's all over the world?
That is such a great first question, I would say. That's fantastic. Let's kick off. Let's really get into it. So
it's your biggest problem.
I would say that. So I have to say, as a preface, I guess, I grew up online. My whole history with building in public and being online dates back to when I was probably 10 or 12 years old, building on I was mostly building websites on topics that really interested me, and people would find those websites and be like, hey, I'm interested in that topic too, let's talk more. And that was very, I would say, very early days of community building. So I kind of started there, and so I have a lot of experience on all sorts of platforms trying to connect people together. But in terms of live events, online, one thing I noticed is I just have to say, I've also run webinars, and they are very much I am telling you a thing, and you have to listen to me. Whereas, and you kind of we have a Q&A, we can, go through the questions at the end, but that's about it. But the community sessions that I have absolutely loved have been these community office hours where I have literally been we have an hour together as a community. We have a rough agenda. Come in. We don't really have any rules. You don't have to speak if you don't want to. We have a chat if you feel more comfortable. But I started running these office hours in every single community I've built so far, and they've done so well because slowly but surely people will get used to you hosting them every couple of weeks. And they show up, and if they first don't feel comfortable communicating by switching on their camera and speaking to you, they'll just talk to you in the chat, and you it becomes more those live streams where people just sit down and it's study with me as I learn this or build this app with me. It became more of that kind of vibe, and I have seen it go from just me and someone else in my community team talking about something random, something related to the product that we're building, or something that we did that week, or something a community member did. And we would just have a casual conversation about it. And then the next week, that same community member that was on the chat would come in and be like, hey, actually, I have a question. They wouldn't turn their camera on. That's fine. And then you keep doing them. And then suddenly you've got a group of people in this huge, group chat, a group video chat, just connecting with each other and being can I show my project next? Can I jump in? Can I speak to this person? I have some feedback for product. And it just organically happened. But I think the main thing to take away from this is you have to structure it in a way that is this isn't a webinar. This isn't me trying to get a lead from you. I don't need your email. It's more let's all like hang out in this space, connect with each other, ask questions, go around the room, and really open up the floor. And I feel like the energy that you bring in really translates to the other side. And I've seen this happen. Like, I've been part of like other community kind of sessions where like hosts are a bit more like, okay, so what do we do now? And it's not as like natural. Whereas if you have a community team that's like really encouraging people to be to stand up, to speak, to engage in different ways that they're comfortable in, it starts to become this really community. I would say like a community session that it starts to feel like one rather than a webinar. I could talk about this for hours, but yeah, that's essentially what I would say.
And
I love that.
how do you get?
I feel like, oh, sorry. We all
so
want
many
to
questions.
We all
We're all like, this
you
is
go,
so fun.
You go, Vana, you go.
I love that approach. I could totally see us doing something like jamming sessions. It's like that's like our office hours version, right?
Yes.
Like that would be cool, and like people could come in, and I think right. Like I think you're saying sort of like it works better than like this like kind of like stuffy formal webinar because it's like this informal space. Just come in and out, do what you want, like community. I love that idea. What I wanted to ask is, okay, so you're doing this like office hours, these events are very cool. You have this like community that's engaging. I want to know where, like, how do you recommend somebody pick a community platform? I think for us, like we're going through this sort of phase where we haven't had a community place, but we have a community like in our events. So like, our calendar subscribers on Luma, that's like our in-person events, and the people interacting with us on Twitter, the people who listen to this podcast, like so there's like community stuff happening, but there's not a Slack channel or like a Discord. And we haven't done it like on purpose, like because we haven't seen it. I haven't seen a place where I think like it's going to work and it's not going to become like a support chat, or it's not going to just be dead and people won't talk. Like, so like how would you go about choosing this right place, and like what's the mix? What are the characteristics you think for a community hub?
That is such a good question. Again, this is like another like question that could go really into depth, but I have a few opinions about this, and I actually wrote a blog post about like my top mistakes in community building, and one I will.
It's Pauline.
I will share that. Yeah. Yeah, I will share that like for you to have a read if you want to go, because I kind of like go in depth about like my thoughts around that. So it really depends on what kind of community you're trying to build. I have created communities in literally every single space imaginable, honestly. Like I have tried, when Twitter communities first came out, like back in the day, I was one of those early people just trying it out. It didn't work for what I was doing, but I really wanted to understand how we could bring people together in the space. But for me, it was more like people were just posting about their like updates without like connecting with each other and chatting, So for me, I think the first question to ask is like, if you see any signal in any platform where people are naturally gravitating to, you need to go there, because communities are built from not you forcing people to be like, hey, this is our platform, this is where we go, like these are the rules. It's more like seeing where the most active folks are hanging out and kind of gradually going in that direction. I'll give you an example. Like when I joined my previous company, I had I was joining as a community engineer at that time, and they didn't really have a community. It was very disjointed. They had like a discourse, that's discourse, not Discord, discourse forum, where people were asking questions, but then they also had a Discord chat. But that Discord chat was actually spun from a conference, a virtual conference that they were hosting that year. So they wanted the community to all kind of come into that space, because we were kind of like showing the conference from YouTube into Discord, so it had like a better functionality for that kind of interaction. So we created one there. But the reason they created Discord in the first place was actually a community member, this was before I had joined, a community member had built a Discord server for the product. And they were like, hey, if you want to join and talk about like this product, come join me. And then people started joining there, and then we had the idea with the conference, and then people kind of abandoned that community one and then moved to the one with our conference, and then we rebranded the conference Discord to be the company Discord, and then we eventually actually closed down Discourse, sorry, the forum. So many like community platforms, and also my accent doesn't help because I'm like Discord and Discourse, Discourse, and we closed that down. But I actually think, like in hindsight, especially with the way the products works, and with SEO and self-serve, I actually think having the Discourse might have been better. I still am part of Discord communities, but I think I would have built it a little bit differently if I went back in time. But that was where the community was, so we kind of just gravitated to where they were. And now at Vercel, we see a very similar thing where the communities, we actually recently we migrated from GitHub Discussions as a community platform to Discourse. Recently, it's over at vercel.community, and I found in this community, as I've landed in it, like I just joined 3 months ago. It's been really interesting to see that the community here has just naturally kind of gone towards more of these forum type platforms, which makes a lot of sense because people are like, I want to show, I have this Vercel configuration. How can I, help me with my best practices for this. And those are the kinds of things that I feel like in Discourse and an actual forum, it works very well for this community. So long story short, I guess the answer is go to where your community is already. And I feel like you can see those signals. You kind of just have to follow that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you walk us through, like, what's the experience for someone in the community to join one of your community office hours, like at Vercel or at GitPod? Like, so we would be in the discourse, maybe you'd have a post that's like inviting you to, and there's like a calendar, like what we join, what's like, what is it like?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question. So it's Vercel. We haven't done the community office hours yet, but it is definitely in the pipeline, so that's exciting. So how I would do it right now in Vercel, we've already started segmenting the community forum into different categories. So there's a category on like I need support with like my Vercel configuration, and that's where a lot of people who like search something up on Google, like I'm stuck with this Vercel configuration, help me out, go to. But then we also have a section on community, and in this segment, we also have like organization with tags where you can see community members showcasing their projects, or like saying, I have this idea in the community, can someone help me out with it? Like we can like collaborate. It's not really like a help, like a support kind of question, but more like a collaborative, like call for help, I guess, for collaboration. And then we have events, and we're starting to build this section out a little bit more with a bit more like community content. So one of the things I did this week was actually speak to our top contributors in the Vercel community today, and we have been brainstorming like how can we create more of these like office hour type content in the community now. Like, would you be up to showing some cool stuff you built on V0? And they were all very excited about it. So what we're going to do, like the general plan is we're going to have a section in the community under like events, and people we will then embed the we're using YouTube connected to StreamYard, which we then surface into the community, but the YouTube is unlisted. So you can't actually search it on YouTube. So the only way you can find it is through the community platform. And we did that on purpose. So it's like the community is the space to view those like that kind of content. So that's like how we're doing it right now in Discourse. Like definitely keep an eye out for that. That's like still in the works. But like at GitPod, it was a little bit easier because Discord is actually one of those platforms where there's a lot going on, but it's a lot more interactive. And honestly, there've been days where I'm like, on weekends, I'm like, if I could build a community platform from scratch, I would want to build the best one. And I would pick and choose from all these amazing platforms because there are so many good things about Discord. There's so many good things about like Discourse. I wish I could just put them all together in one space. That is like a different like conversation for next time. Someone should fund that idea. I have so many opinions on the best community platform. But on Discord, it's a lot more easier because there's like an events feature where you can create an event, you can host it directly on Discord, and once you're live, it kind of has this like banner at the top of your server that's saying like, we are live right now, come join in. And that happened a lot. Like that's how we set it up at GitPod, and we got into such a good cadence that people always knew that, oh, every Wednesday, Pauline and the community team are going to jump on this call and we can talk to them about our product feedback, our ideas, and it just became a very like regular occurrence. I think the longest streak I did for community office hours like GitPod was probably like I started every single week and then I changed it to bi-weekly and then monthly, but the longest streak of every single week was about 6 months.
Whoa.
And it was like
amazing.
going in, talking to users every single week without fail.
Wow.
It was great. We built some great relationships there.
But can you help me understand how it is that you make this conversation feel natural? Because I'm imagining.
Yes, that's my question too.
Let's say next week we're like, hey, we want to start these jam office hours. Let's do it, right? Okay, set up the live stream on YouTube maybe. All right, and we do it. We want it to be natural, not webinar like. Do we go like how do you
Yes.
intro that? What is the intro speech that you're giving to help people understand how it is that this space is supposed to be fun?
That's such a good question. You know, with community, like just generally with community building and community engagement type work, I find it really hard. I don't know if you also see this, but I find it really hard to put into words because there's so many companies out there that's got amazing communities, but for some reason, no one has this playbook. Like there is a playbook that you have to do this, and if you do these 10 steps, then it will run and it will work for you. And one of the communities I've really enjoyed like watching over the years was actually HashiCorp. And one of the reasons I love them it was because like the people that were in the communities, like in the community office hours, just came in with this energy. And I want to give you an answer that's very much like, this is the things that you have to do and it's a guaranteed success. But honestly, it's like the people that you bring into the community. It's the people leading your community. It's the culture that they set. I think that is what makes communities successful. So if you have somebody like come in and they are super engaged, they understand the mission of the community, they understand the mission of your company, they understand like why they're hosting this office hours to begin with, to connect with these users, I think that really transfers. And again, I wish I could tell you what the secret is, but honestly, like hand on my heart, I am just a community builder and I absolutely love joining these community sessions and hosting them, providing the space for people to give us feedback. And I don't know what it is. I just feel like I just come in and I'm like, hey, everyone, it's nice to see you again. Or if it's the first time, I'm like, hey, welcome. Let's introduce ourselves, tell the rest of the group if you feel comfortable, like where you're calling in from, what you're building with our products, and things like that. And that usually gets some conversation going. Otherwise, there have been some office hours, I'm sure, recorded somewhere on the internet where it's literally me and my colleague, like, just talking about, I don't know, like the upcoming holiday and waiting for some action to happen. And then someone comes like the last 10 minutes and it's great, but It's just, at the end of the day, community building is about people. So it's like, I wish I could not like tell you the exact playbook, but it's just the energy you bring in, the culture that you set.
The vibes.
That's amazing.
The vibes, that's it.
You guys, I have an idea.
What?
Let's go.
Jam Community Hours is called Debug Support Group. And at the same time every week, anyone who's debugging something in Jam, there's a banner that pops up in the bug report that says, do you need to talk about this? We offer support. Join this call right now. And engineers all over the world currently debugging something, join, and we do like venting sessions about the bug. It's 20 minutes, it's over, and then back to work.
Oh man,
And we do like a
that.
rage.
yeah, like people
I
could
actually
share,
like it.
if we had like a folder or something where people could send their jams that they're working on, like
Can you debug this for me?
or maybe not debug, like maybe it's like roast this like bug that makes no sense or whatever. Like, you know,
That's
like,
actually
JavaScript
such a
run
fun
party.
idea. Yeah, yeah. And I think I would say like these community sessions, another way of thinking about it is it's just like you go into a call with people and it's like just other people who are frustrated over something or they really love your product and they just want to give you feedback. They just want to connect with the creators of it. And I just think it's like important to remember that you're just speaking to people, you know? And instead, I just sometimes feel like with webinars, it's very like, this is going on the internet, so I have to be like pixel perfect and I have to read the script and, you know, really deliver it. But at the end of the day, these community sessions are supposed to feel like just having a casual chat.
For startups like us, where it's like this would all be brand new if we were to start doing, like, what would you recommend? Like, what do we do on day one, week one? Like, how do you start this? Like, what did you do at GitPod to start all this?
Oh, so many things. Like with GitPod, I was the first like community person that joined, and it was a very fun challenge. My CEO at the time was like, Pauline, like you have this community, just go run with it. The goal is just to build the community. And I was like, fantastic. What do we have here? And it was very exciting because it was it was an open source project at the time. So I was very much like, okay, what do we have here? Who are our main users? How can I like start something here? So it's really exciting because at Vercel, with the Vercel community, it also feels like I'm starting from like day one. It feels like a day one kind of greenfield project, I would say, because Vercel has a great community, but it's very much geared towards next.js. But now we have an opportunity with my community team to build like the Vercel kind of experts community, which is so fun. And we're getting like a lot of our hoping to get like customers in there as well to engage. But kind of like how I started is I first like looked at the community as a whole, like who are our users right now, who is using the product, and who are the main people that show up every single day and like ask a question, file a bug report, star the repo, and then like share it on Twitter. Who are those people? And then I remember like the first few days like at GitPod, I identified a couple of them, which again felt very lucky that we already had some people who were fans. I set up calls with them and I was like, hey, like, why do you show up here? And like, why do you like, you know, writing these long reports for us? And why do you keep basically showing up and sharing your thoughts with us? Like, what is motivating you? And those conversations opened up so much for me, because then I started to realize that firstly that the product was fantastic and people really really loved it and there was a lot of potential there, and then secondly some people genuinely really wanted to grow the company alongside the folks that were building the company, and that again feels great because it really segments like, hey, I'm building something cool here. And then other folks had different motivations for contributing to the community and being loud. And one that I find interesting that I also, upon reflection, used myself as a community member, was building up my own experience and my own profile. And I don't think this is talked a lot about in like the wider space, but communities are a great way to build your personal brand, to build your like career. I mean, my whole career is built from communities. I honestly feel like I am a good example of someone that used a lot of communities to help me get my work out there. For example, like very quickly, I used to be part of the AWS Community Builders program, and I wrote a lot of content for AWS to showcase how I was using different AWS products for my projects. I got rewarded a lot from AWS. They shared a lot of my stuff and connected me with incredible people, and I'm super thankful for that, because I am where I am because of community programs like that. So yes, so going back to that is like just understanding what these key community members want, and then really taking their feedback seriously and build the community with them. So if it is like a forum, if it is a Discord, wherever they're hanging out, go to them and build with them, ask their feedback, because those key members are the folks that become your like first round of like super fans. And those super fans then get to set that community culture so that when you show up at these community office hours, you're not alone. It's always those people that like show up with you. So yeah, I would say like remember, like find the users who are already using your product and absolutely love it, and build the community around like them and what they want. But also just like generally understand what your mission is. What do you want to do in the community? Like, why are you building this community to begin with? Are you trying to connect people together? Are you trying to get more leads? Because, you know, communities are such a fun career to be in, because it's like so central. It touches like top of funnel, bottom of funnel, the middle of the funnel, all over the funnel. It's so fun that you can really utilize it in lots of different ways. So it's just really important to understand what that mission is, why you're building the community to begin with, and then generally after that, like design the community for your community. It's just, I feel like it naturally just comes from there. I'm actually in the process of writing a guide on what I would do if I did it again, because I'm doing it again, kind of like at Vercel, and I'm following the ideas I had last time, but learning a lot more these days to execute it in slightly a different way. So it's fun. Community building is fun. I hope that answered your question.
So it's so hard to measure community impact, especially like speaking from our side of Jam, like community is not a lead generation tool for us at all. It's just a way to connect with users, see like, you know, how they're doing, how they're feeling, get, you know, vibes, have fun. Like I love it. It's like the best job ever. But right, when somebody asks you like, okay, but like what's the ROI? Like why? How do you measure community if you're not using it as a lead generation tool?
Yeah, and how do you measure like how well is this going? Is this going well, basically? Yeah.
Yeah. So this, I feel like I can pull this in so many different directions. We're currently going through a project right now, actually called Metrics at Vercel, to try and figure out the right metrics to track. But because the community team at Vercel sits under customer success, the metrics that we are reporting are a little bit different than if community sat under marketing, for example.
Interesting.
And when I sat under, I've been in both, obviously. So right now I'm in customer success. In the past, I was under marketing, and a lot of my like metrics and return on investment that I was trying to get from the community had to reflect back to the top level marketing goals. And most of the time, it was so difficult because getting leads from the community we had a couple, like we got like a handful actually that was good, but it wasn't as effective as other means, I'm sure. And now in customer success, our main goal, like our overall mission in the Vercel community, is to create a generation of Vercel experts. And those Vercel experts are customers who know like the product inside and out, that they can share with other people, like this is the workaround. And so right now, the thing that we're looking for, that I'm like really deeply trying to understand, is who is in our community, what are those profiles like? How can we keep them engaged in the community to then help other people? And again, I guess it always goes back to engagement. And the main metric I'm looking for right now is how many not how many questions are posted in our forum, but how many people are coming back, logging in every single day or like every few days to help other people, to share their workarounds, to share in, like I said, we segmented the community. So there's a section called community, and I like to track how many people post there every week. And obviously, as you can imagine, like the help and support section is quite big, but I like in the ideal world, I would like to have a section where the community segment is like full of contributions from community members that become almost like guides and like self-serve kind of posts for others to use. So yeah, like I hope that answers your question, but right now for us, it's mostly like that engagement metric to show that people are coming to this space to get answers, to also like just help other people and overall like help the vercel ecosystem like thrive. But I'm sure like in a couple of like months I can give you an even better answer once we have all of these metrics set up. But I will say like Common Room is a tool that we're using a lot at Vercel right now, and it's done such a good job at figuring out who's in our community, who is the most engaged, and who is posting in these sections. So it's fantastic.
It's almost like your community is an extension. It's like a feature. It's a feature of being a virtual user. And so you measure the success of the feature by usage
and retention.
It. Yeah.
And retention. Absolutely.
And even your answer about like, what's day one of building community? It's like build it with your users. It's like you have design partners. And it's
exactly.
Like, I almost hear you say like, you know, people talk about product, they say build something users want. It's like build a community users want. It's so striking. It's like your PM and the product is this living thing.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's how I've started to see it. Actually, that mindset shift. I wrote this down. Like I might have tweeted it. Maybe I don't know. I have to find the tweet, but I definitely wrote this down somewhere where I was like, actually, I'm starting to see the community more as a product these days. And because of that, I'm kind of being like, okay, how can we make this the best community experience that matches the rest of like the Vercel platform, which already has incredible developer experience? How can we do that in the community? And so, yeah, a lot of like figuring stuff out there.
I want to ask about content and particularly how things like video and blog posts and basically how it is that your content is feeding into just having a thriving community.
I strongly believe that content contributed by community members really is it's the thing that keeps the community alive. Because I would say, so if a community member comes in now into the Vercel community and they publish something on our platform is being seen not only by customers and our users and anyone else who comes across it on the internet, but also people internally at Vercel. And we have folks like even our CEO hangs out there sometimes, reads some of the threads. And I just feel like it's such good visibility for people. It's like it does so well for us because it's like, oh yeah, someone shared they really did a deep dive on this one feature and they shared their solution with XYZ. But then it also helps them and their like profile and their career, that they're like, hey, look, I posted in this amazing community space. It really helps me. So I believe like content is so pivotal in that. In terms of that, especially from the community contribution standpoint, but also like from the Vercel standpoint, we are using the community space that we've built as a way to show more of the faces of Vercel, because I'm sure you've seen like a lot of folks on Vercel Twitter. Like there's a lot of people there, a lot of really amazing people, but there are like I joined like 3 months ago, and the amount of coffee chats I have with folks here where I'm like, dang, you know how many people would love to hear your story of how you ended up at Vercel and how you obsessed over this one thing, and then now you're here? it's like so inspiring. So we are also using this community space to actually showcase more of our internal community. I feel like that in turn helps with brand, helps remind folks that, hey, we are a bunch of very obsessed, very like excited and passionate people who just want to build some cool stuff for folks. And so that's why I feel like content really goes hand in hand with community, both like externally and internally. I hope that answered your question. I'm also like such a content creator. I've been a content creator for years now, so I could talk about content for hours.
Where should people join your community?
If you want to join the Vercel community, head over to vercel.community, and I'm always hanging out in there like every single day, and maybe almost 24/7, to be honest. I absolutely love it. It's a great space. Feel free to like chat to us there, and if you have any feedback on like community development, please get in touch. And also just if I can, like you can find me online at on Twitter and on LinkedIn, and also you can email me if you want to talk more about community. Honestly, I could speak for hours about this. It's like such a fun topic. I'm super passionate about it. So yeah, come join.
This was so fun. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. It's really fun. Thank you for having me.